to Valley Mobile Automotive. Behind me is a 2008 Chevy Cobalt. If you haven't seen my previous videos on this vehicle, just a quick recap. Engine ran out of oil, started making an awful noise, found out it's the crankshaft, rod bearings are shot, took out the crankshaft. Hopefully the connecting rod is okay, we're gonna check, but I'm pretty sure it needs a connecting rod as well. So we're tearing it down. Let me show you. We got the crankshaft out and just show you just some quick tips on how to do it. Now, this is crazy labor intensive. So if you're gonna attempt this, be prepared for the amount of work and knowledge level that you may need to tackle one of these things. But let me show you. There's a few tips and tricks I wish I knew before getting into it, and I'll throw it your way in case you're doing one of these. So this whole job can be done with the engine still in the vehicle. Valve cover has to come off, timing cover has to come off, and oil pan all have to come off. Not too difficult to get those off, pretty self-explanatory. The trick is to get the flywheel out from the transmission in order to get the crankshaft off. So the engine, you can see we have it separated from the transmission. Transmission stays in place, transmission mounts, hold the transmission where it needs to be. The engine, though, needs to be suspended, and we just have the backyard method, ratchet strap, and a board. Those towels under the board help in two ways. One, it keeps the fender from being damaged, but also it allows you to slide the board over. So when we move the engine out, the board needs to be slid as well. So that was actually pretty good. So that's the ticket right there. To get the transmission bolts, the thermostat housing has to be popped out of the way. All this has to be moved out of the way. Any electrical connectors and all that. Starter has to be removed. The alternator, I removed the alternator and the AC compressor. AC compressor doesn't have to be disconnected from the lines or anything like that. It can just be moved out of the way so the engine has more room to slide over. Once the starter's out, it'll reveal a bolt going in this direction into the bell housing. Then we have a bolt here in that direction, another bolt in that direction, and then two bolts on the other side going in this direction. Hard to find. You can feel one back in there, you can feel it, but one of them was really hard to find. I didn't find it, and I was prying on the case going, man, something is still attached. And then I finally found it. I'll point that out in a second. But you'll want to get all those off, and then pretty much this thing can just slide forward. Before sliding the engine over, you'll want to take off all the timing stuff, the timing chain and the balance shaft chain. So there's two chains. This is the main timing chain and this is the balance shaft. So you want to get both of those disconnected. If you slide the engine too far forward, then you don't have much access to get tools up and under there. So at least disconnect everything down here as far as guides and stuff like that. So that secret hidden bolt, this is the passenger side. If you come under, you can see, let me see if I can point it out. Right there would be where the hole is, where the bolt was. Really hard to find. I didn't see that. You can't see it when you're under the vehicle. You can only see it from this vantage point. What I had to use to get to it was a really long extension setup like this with an 18mm socket. That was able to get it. It was able to bend enough and torque enough around to get it out. So that'll be fun getting back in, but that was the hang up for me, was that bolt under there. That was the solution. So the crankshaft, the flywheel does not have to come off the crankshaft because the engine slides out enough that it clears the bell housing and everything. So this can be taken off after the fact. So it doesn't have to be taken off to get the crank out. Another thing to keep in mind, these cranks are pretty heavy. Just keep that in mind too when you're doing this. So this is what holds the crank in. You'll recognize this viewpoint once you have the oil pan off. There's a lot of bolts, kind of like head bolts almost. And this is almost like a head, only it's a bottom, and it holds the crank on. You can see these are the main bearings here. Those will be getting replaced. So this separates before the crank can come out. I took this off before I separated the engine. I'm pretty sure you can leave it on until the engine is separated. I'm not quite sure, but that's when I did this, was before. So use your judgment there. It's a spider, big guy. All right, so that's the bottom holding the crank in. And I think that's pretty much it. This isn't a how-to walkthrough video, just pointing out some of the highlights. This is a very involved, labor-intensive job. So far, I'm looking at 5 hours to get to where I am. But the valve cover, the timing cover, and oil pan were already off during the inspection or diagnosis. So in addition to taking off those covers, 5 more hours. So probably 7 to get to where I am. All right, if I think of anything else, I'll definitely let you know. I'm headed to the junkyard, see if we can find a vehicle with this 2.2 liter and the right crank that matches up. If we can, sweet, we'll take it off of that vehicle, launch it into this one. If not, then we'll go either the parts store route or OEM, depending on availability. All right, so this episode isn't over. You'll see me at the junkyard. So I'm at the local junkyard. It's pretty chilly out. Behind me is a 06 Cobalt. Now, according to the parts store numbers and cross references, the 06 will not work for the crankshaft. Over there is a 2009, so let's go check that out. As far as I know, it's the exact same. So 08 and 09 are the same, but 06 and 08 apparently are different. So just looking at this 09, everything looks really good. There's a few reasons why a vehicle will be in the junkyard. Obviously an accident, and I don't see anywhere where this vehicle got in an accident. So I'm wondering if this engine maybe also grenaded. Who knows? This engine may not be any good. So we'll tear the oil pan off. We don't have to pull the valve cover or anything else at this moment. I just want to make sure the crank is good before we start tackling it, because the body is good. So either transmission is junk or the engine is junk, but hopefully the crank is still good. So let's pull that off. Probably won't film much in the process just because of where we are. Not good filming location, and it'll be quicker if I don't. So I'll get on it and then show you whether or not it's a good one. Or so I think I found what happened to this vehicle. They hit something. That looks like maybe they tried to JB weld it back together, but I bet it ran out of oil and this engine's junk. So it's possible that I pulled this oil pan off and its crank's no good. I'm gonna pull it off anyway. Maybe we get lucky, but that's why it's in the junkyard. All right, got the pan off, just giving it a good look. Yeah, that one looks pretty dark. So does that one. Maybe that doesn't mean anything. That's a good color there. What's up in here? Yeah, kind of dark, but let me pull the caps off. That'll be the actual inspection. Let me pull these caps off, see if the engine will rotate, and get to these bolts better. All right, well, the junkyard proved to be unfruitful. The engine was seized. I tried turning it over. I should have done that before taking the oil pan off, but live and learn. Engine seized. I doubt that crank was any good anyway, seeing how the oil pan had a big hole in it. So anyway, for the Cobalt to be fixed, it either needs to be eBay parts. Somebody else maybe have pulled something and we can find it on eBay, or remanufactured parts. Now I can get those remanufactured parts from the local parts store. It's just, of course, the cost goes up. But I was hoping to find a crankshaft here because it was like 36 bucks if we could find one. But took a gamble, didn't find it. Oh well. All right, so the junkyard did not turn out to be fruitful. That's okay. We're gonna go ahead and order one. Now the local auto parts store is not able to get a hold of one of these, remanufactured or new. So we're gonna go through a GM supplier, not the dealer, but an online supplier of OEM GM stuff. So we're gonna get a brand spanking new one, and we'll wait for that to come.